Hello, and welcome to this 53rd episode of Questioning Woke Psychotherapy. I want to talk about ironic sincerity, a central term that comes out of metamodernism. I believe that this is a good attitude to have in general, but also particularly useful when confronting critical social justice or woke ideology. If you haven't heard of ironic sincerity or of metamodernism before, bear with me for a moment while I briefly explain. First, metamodernism is a cultural movement that's emerged after postmodernism. You could also call it post-postmodernism, although some don't really like that term. It's hard to put in a nutshell, but I'll give it a go. It's an approach to our current complex global situation that attempts to preserve the best of pre-modern, modern, and postmodern perspectives while also critiquing and recognizing the limits of each. By integrating the positive elements of each, it gives rise to an emergent vision that transcends and includes its predecessors. I've been studying this and trying to get my head around it for a while, learning about the beliefs and practices of pre-modern, modern, and postmodern modes of thought and action, and discerning the up and down sides of each requires significant study. It's a brain ache, to be honest. Not everyone has the time or inclination for it. Ironic sincerity is much simpler than all of that. It's more of an attitude than a complicated intellectual construct. It's something that can be understood and adopted without having to be an academic philosopher. It captures the essence of the metamodern view in a way that can be immediately experienced. So, rather than give you a brain ache by launching into an intellectual explanation of ironic sincerity, I want to show you an image and tell you a story about it. My hope is that this will give you an immediate experience and ground what I will say later. Do you recognize this image from my thumbnail for this video? Take your time and give it your gaze. Is it not beautiful? This is an AI image created with the prompt, depict a vase made in the style of kintsugi, which is a Japanese word that means golden joinery. It's a Japanese method of ceramic repair that involves mending broken pieces of plates, cups, saucers, vases, and other objects with a gold lacquer or dust. There are different stories about how this began, but a common one is that in 15th century Japan, the military ruler Ashikaga Yoshimasa sent one of his tea bowls back to China to be repaired. When it was returned, he was disappointed with the finished result and asked a local craftsman to find a more aesthetically pleasing way of repair. The craftsman's solution was to emphasize the cracks in the bowl by binding the pieces with gold, rather than trying to conceal them. Ashikaga Yoshimasa was delighted with the results, and thus kintsugi was born. You may have heard of this, and perhaps even reflected on it as a metaphor for your own life. Kintsugi is one expression of Japanese aesthetic of wabi-sabi. The Japanese word wabi translates to less is more, and sabi, which means attentive melancholy. Combined, they refer to an awareness of the imperfect, incomplete, and impermanent nature of earthly things, and a corresponding pleasure in the things that represent or express them. The origins of wabi-sabi predate kintsugi by several centuries and are linked with Zen Buddhism and Shintoism. So, what does this have to do with ironic sincerity, you may ask? Let's explore the general meaning of each of these two words, starting with ironic. Our common understanding of this word includes three types of irony: verbal, situational, and dramatic. Verbal irony is when someone says the opposite of what they mean. Situational irony is when the opposite of what is expected happens. Dramatic irony is when the audience knows something that the characters don't. To dig a little deeper, I would suggest that irony is generally the perception and feeling that things are not as we want or expect them to be. They are not perfect and permanent, nor are they at some final stage of completion. In other words, reality is full of wabi-sabi. Irony, then, in a more inclusive meta-modern sense, means to notice this and critically point it out. But unlike postmodernism, it's not cynical. Metamodernism sees that the world and people are not what they could be or what they ought to be, but tries to find the gold for assembling the broken pieces. This is unlike modernism, which prefers to think progress has simply made the world a better place, and postmodernism that relentlessly criticizes and complains about broken pieces without offering any constructive hope. Sincerity is a sense of optimism, idealism, and hopeful aspiration. It is willing to dream, even of utopias. Metaphorically, it sees the broken vase and believes it can be put back together and made even more beautiful. Hopefully, it's obvious that I'm not just talking about a broken vase. I'm talking about society, about our collective human adventure, and about ourselves. Ironic sincerity doesn't just see the brokenness of things, become cynical, and resign itself to complaining. Maybe it even has goal to hold together the pieces of pre-modern, modern, and postmodern views. The antagonisms between these three eras of human life are like the spaces between the shards of a broken vase. But this sincerity is not naive. It recognizes wabi-sabi. It sees imperfection, impermanence, and incompleteness, not as things to overcome and obliterate once and for all, but as the fundamental conditions of reality itself. Nevertheless, ironically, it believes in the potential for things to be beautiful, not just aesthetically, but morally, all the while recognizing the realities of nature and human nature. Okay, so this is where I have to do the obligatory cliche spiel about liking, subscribing, and sharing this video, blah, blah, blah. That's because I need to know that I'm not just talking to myself. No, I'm an important person who's going places. But honestly, any support you give me will be greatly appreciated. It does matter to me. There. How's that for an ironically sincere way to get this said? I'm going to stop babbling now and invite you to gaze at a few more images that capture elements of wabi-sabi. Just look at them and notice your response. I can't tell you what you'll feel or what you ought to feel, but I can make a few guesses. I'll remain silent, however, while you look at them and share my guesses after you've seen them. I'm giving you enough time to linger with each image, knowing full well that many of you will find this boring and click out. If that's you, so long. Good luck finding something better to pay attention to. For those who stay, I'll try to make it worth your while. Okay, here come the images. My guesses about what these images evoked for you might just be my own responses, but as I'm not an alien from another planet, I imagine your responses might be similar. I see beauty in each of these images. Partly this is a matter of form, color, and composition, but it's more than that for me. Each image seems to convey something true to my everyday experience, but usually ignored and overlooked. These images invite me to give my attention to broken and imperfect things, things that show signs of wear and impermanence. There's something satisfying about this kind of honesty. They evoke a kind of pleasurable melancholy. At the same time, another part of me feels a tinge of revulsion. I think these things are ugly and need to be fixed or disposed of. There's a subtle impulse to do something. I should repair that stone wall. I should restore that old truck. I should replace that broken window and refinish that table. I should take all that junk to the dump. What did you feel as you looked at these images? Anything like what I have described? Something else? Ironic sincerity makes a space for a variety of responses, ranging from a deep sense of appreciation to a restless urge to repair things, sometimes simultaneously. Now, I would invite you to consider gazing upon your own life in a similar manner. Can you hold both views and both sets of feelings? And beyond yourself, what view and feelings do you have when gazing upon society or our collective human condition? Can you regard that with ironic sincerity? Can you take a critical or ironic view, recognizing what is imperfect, broken, impermanent, and incomplete about all of our social creations, be they our physical creations like technology or social institutions, the wabi-sabi of it all? Can you hold that while also feeling appreciation and affection Can you also heed the call to make things better while accepting that nothing will ever be perfect, permanent, or finished? That, I believe, is what the ironic sincerity of postmodernism invites us to do. Here are a few more ironies for you to consider. What appears broken may not be. What appears perfect may be broken. What appears beautiful may be ugly. For instance, cliches of the hyper-beautiful. What appears to be a morally necessary act may cause more harm than good. What appears to be a morally compromised act may produce more good than is obvious. Ironic sincerity may be described as the latest development touted by Western hipsters, but its roots reach back via wabi-sabi and kintsugi to a pre-modern time centuries ago in the East. So what appears to be new may be a timeless human intuition. With an attitude of ironic sincerity, we are more likely to maintain an open mind and heart, not be captured by cynicism or naivety, and aspire to the best. Our dreams about what ought to be can flourish, while also constrained by our recognition and acceptance of what is. I've only slightly unpacked what the implications are for ironic sincerity when it comes to critical social justice and the woke. I'll leave it to you to make your own observations and draw your own conclusions. Your comments on this are welcome and may be valuable to others. I will end with sharing one more image. This is of a teacup being repaired with the art of kintsugi. May you enjoy it. That's it for now. Until next time, take care of yourself and each other, even if neither you nor the others deserve it. Bye.